How you doing there? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Memtes, Daf 49 of Masechta Sanhedrin. Friends, your friends. Well, today we're wrapping up the 6th parak of Masechta Sanhedrin, and we'll begin the 7th parak of Masechta Sanhedrin. We're going to pick up in the middle of the dialogue with Yoav and Benayo, and then we're going to start the 7th parak of Masechta Sanhedrin, Arba Misos Nimsu Lebezdin. So it is going to be a very gewaldige daf, and here we go. We're going to start in Daf Memtes Amud Aleph, all the way at the top of the Amud. The first line of the Amud. Asua le Yoav Dayine. So Yoav was fleeing from Solomon, and he went to the Mishkan. And over there was Benayo, and Be'etzim, there was, so basically Yoav, to be spared the sword of Solomon, to be spared being killed by Solomon, he ran to the Mishkan, and he figured, okay, well, instead of being killed by Solomon, I'll at least, I'll have to go to court for the Bezdin. And we're going to see what they were judging him about. So Asur li Yoav Daini. So they brought Yoav, and he was at the Sanhedrin over there, and they judged him. Omar lei, my time katalti leAvner. So Benayo says to Yoav, he says, how come you killed Avner? Because Yoav killed Avner ben Ner as well as Amaso. And so Benayo says to Yoav, how come you killed Avner? So Omar lei goyel adam da'asoel havoy. So Yoav says, well, Avner killed my brother Asoel, and therefore I was the family member. I was the Goyal Adam, and I killed Avner as I was entitled to avenge the blood of my brother Asoel by killing Avner. But Asoel roidef havo. But Avner was justified in killing Asoel, because Asoel was a roidef, he was going to kill Avner. So Omerlei, yes, but as we're going to learn in not the parak that we're starting today, not the 7th parak, but the following parak, the 8th parak, Ben Sur Mur, there's a sugi there, I believe, about roidef, about if Reuven is chasing Shimon and he's going to kill Shimon, Shimon can kill Reuven. However, if Shimon can neutralize the threat by, shooting the legs or something like that, so then Shimon should do that instead. So therefore, so Benayo claims that Asoel was chasing after Avner, but Avner, instead of killing Asoel, he could have just, injured Asoel. So Amalei lo yachile. So meaning, I don't know, I got confused by the dialogue. So what happened? So the shaila is, why did Yoav kill Avner? He says, well, I killed him because I'm the Goyal Adam. To which Benayo says, yeah, but your brother Asoel was a rodef. He was going to kill Avner. To which Yoav says, yeah, but Avner could have just injured him. To which Benayo says, but lo yachile. Avner was unable to just injure Asoel. So Omle hashte bedoifen chamishis kivin lei. But Yoav says, I don't buy that, because Avner killed Asoel by smiting him in the 5th rib. That he smote Asoel with the back of a spear to the chomesh. From Rabbi Yechon, it says Rabbi Yechon bedoifen chamishis, the 5th rib, b'makom shemari v'chavi tluyin bo, where the bile and the liver, the gallbladder and the liver are over there. So Avner smote Asoel very, very precisely. So if he smote Asoel so precisely, couldn't he have precisely shot him in the foot or something like that? So therefore, Yoav says, I don't buy it. Avner knew exactly what he was doing, and he could have saved Asael's life by merely injuring him, but he chose to kill him. Therefore, that was not allowed. So Yoav says, I don't buy it. If Avner was able to strike Asael so precisely, then he should have been able to simply injure Asael instead of killing him. So Benayo says, okay, you know what, fine, I understand why you were the Goyal Adam for Avner. My time of Katatu le'amoso. But then why did you kill Amoso? Yoav, how come you killed Amoso? What's up with that? Omerle, so Yoav says, Amoso moed b'malchus hava. Amoso rebelled against King David, and therefore he deserved to be killed for that. The Apostle says, Vayomer HaMelech la'Amoso, that King David said to Amoso, Hazikli, as Ish Yehuda, Shloishes Yom V'gomer, go and get for me the men of Judah. You have 3 days. Vayelech Amoso lahazik es Yehuda vayocher v'gomer. And Amoso went to get the people of Yehuda, the men of Yehuda, but he tarried. He took a long time, took more than the 3 allotted days. So therefore, Yoav says that Amoso was moed b'malchus, and therefore he deserved to die. Omalei, to which Benayo responds to Yoav, Amoso achin v'rakin darash. No, Amoso was taka right to delay because he expounded a verse from Sefer Yoshua, achin v'rakin, right? The word ach, or the word rak, is coming to exclude something, and therefore Amoso darshaned ashkochinu depsiach lu b'mesichto, that when Amoso got there to gather the people of Yehuda, he found that they were just starting to learn. Omar, he says, "Ksiv kol ish asher yamer es picha lo yishmer es devrecha chol asher titzavenu yumos." That on the one hand, the pasuk says in Yoshua that anybody who rebels against you and does not listen to you, for whatever you command them, shall be killed. Right? So you have to listen to the king. Okay, so there's that. But at the same time, yochal afilu divrei Torah. Is it possible that this applies even to divrei Torah? That if the king suggests bittul Torah that you should do that, Talmud lomar rak chazak ve'emas. It says rak only you shall be strong. Rak comes to exclude. What is excluded from this dictum? What is the thing that if the king asks you to do it, you don't necessarily do it? It affects Talmud Torah, meaning if King David said to Amoso to gather the people of Judah, but he got there and they're learning Torah, so then maybe wait until they're done studying Torah. So that's what Amasa did. So therefore, Yoav is arguing that Amasa was moed b'malchus, that he rebelled against David, but Benayo argues that Hitaka was right because they were learning Torah. So Ela ugaver moed b'malchus hava. Rather, you Yoav were moed b'malchus. The Apostle says, "V'ashmua ba'a ad Yoav, ki Yoav nota achrei Adonia, achrei Avshalom loy nota." That what does it say? Yeah, kishenimshach Shlomo ba'a el Yoav v'nisyari. Right? That I just read Rashi. That Yoav heard that Shlomo became the king, and he got nervous. Ki Yoav nota achrei Adonia, because Yoav followed Adonia, right? It says at the end of King David's life, his son Adonia claimed the throne, but Shlomo was supposed to be the king. So v'achrei Avshalom lo nota, but he didn't follow Avshalom in the rebellion against King David, but he did follow Adonia and not Solomon. So I guess that Yoav was moed b'malchus, I guess, Solomon. So my loy noto, what does it mean that he didn't go after Avshalom? Okay. Omer of Yehuda says of Yehuda, shebikesh lintos v'lo noto, that he wanted to follow Avshalom, but he just never did. Umay taima lo noto, how come he never followed Avshalom if he wanted to? So Omer Reb Elazar says, well, even though Yoav wanted to follow David's son Avshalom, King David was still stark. He was still strong. He was still King David. So therefore, he did not follow Avshalom, but he wanted to. So I think that's actually the Moed B'Malchus, that he had intended to follow Avshalom instead of King David. He was just nervous because King David was still stark, he was still strong. Rabbi Yosef ben Chanina Amar Adain Itztagnine Shel David Kayomin. Whereas Rabbi Yosef ben Chanina says that King David's enforcers were still there. The people would beat people up and punish people. That David had these 400 bochrim. Kulam bnei Yifas Toya. They were all the children of Eishes Yifas Toyas. Which means that be'etzem they come from Nochrim, right? They converted, but through Eishes Yifas Toya, but they ultimately come from Nochrim. Umigadle blurus are you? I guess I'm getting tired. Umigadle blurus are you? I think they had these like rat tails. Umahalchin be Rosh Agayosos, and they would go at the front of the lines, I guess. Where am I? Ein Bale Grofen Shel David, and they were the enforcers of King David, and the sort of fear of them prevented Yoav from joining Avshalom. But I guess we see that he did have thoughts to rebel against King David. Okay. Ufliga de Rabbi Abba bar Kahana, but the notion that Yoav would rebel against King David argues on that which Abba bar Kahana says. Damar Abba bar Kahana, Ilmalei David lei also Yoav milchama. If not for King David, who was there, I think Rashi says he was studying Torah and giving, I guess, the confidence for Yoav to go to battle, knowing that King David was studying Torah. So Yoav milchama. Yoav would not go to war without the knowledge that King David was studying Torah. And also, if not for the fact that Yoav was out fighting the wars, leaving David to be able to study Torah, David would be unable to study Torah if he himself had to deal with the wars. The Pasuk says, that King David did judgment and righteousness for all of his nation. And Yoav was the general of the army. Matam David also how come King David had the capacity to be able to do judgment and righteousness for his nation? Mishum to Yoav alatzova, because Yoav was handling the military matters. Umatam Yoav alatzova, and how come Yoav was able to properly handle the military matters? Mishum de David oisa mishpat tzedakah v'chol, because King David was busy, was doing judgment and righteousness for the nation. That, if I understand correctly, gave Yoav kind of the encouragement and the momentum to be able to fight in battle. Vayetze Yoav me'im David vayishlach malochim achrei Avner. That Yoav went from King David and he sent messengers to Avner. Vayashivu osmi bor asira, and they brought him from the pit of the thorn. My bor asira, what's the pit of the thorn? Amr Abba bar Kahana bor v'sira garam to Avner shiarig. That what caused Avner to be killed ultimately was a pit and a thorn. What does that mean? Well, there were two instances where King David had the opportunity to kill Saul, but he didn't. And that could have been used as an opportunity to find favor with Saul, so that Saul would stop trying to kill him. But instead, Avner kind of came up with alternative possibilities, and therefore Saul remained upset with David. For example, so the boar represents a water that when King David broke into the camp and found Saul and his soldiers sleeping, so he took a pitcher of water and his spear. And there's also the story when King David was hiding in a cave and Saul went in there, and King David kind of ripped off a part of his cloak. And in both instances, right, that could have been used as an opportunity, but the whole point was that King David had the opportunity to kill Saul, but he didn't. And it could have turned things around in favor of David and reconciliation of Saul and David, but instead, Avner came up with excuses and versions of why it wasn't in the King David being a good guy, and he therefore did not help that relationship. Okay, where am I? Okay, fine. Okay, so Amr Abu Bakana Bor Visir Gamur Lo Abner Sheyarg. So that's what ultimately caused Avner's death, because he didn't save King David, and Yoav ended up killing Avner. V'ateru Yoav El Toich Ashar, and Yoav took him to the gate l'daber ito, to speak with him. V'sheli Amr Yochanan Shedanu Dinei Sanhedrin. So when it says Shar, it's like the gate of the Sanhedrin. So he judged him a judgment of the Sanhedrin. He said, Avner, how come you killed Asoil? Asoil roideh for you. So Avner says, well, Asoil was a roideh. Yoav says, yeah, but you should have killed Asoil. You shouldn't have killed Asoil. You should have just injured him. So Avner says, I was unable to. To which Yoav says, what do you mean, Avner? You killed Asoil in a very, very specific part of the body, the fifth rib, where the gallbladder and the liver meet, and yet you were unable to simply injure Asoil. I don't buy it. L'daber ito b'shali Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Rav al iske shalo. That shal is like a shoe, shal na'alechem araglecho, and it's a reference to the shoe of chalitza. That be'etzem Yoav says to Avner, how would a person without hands do chalitza? So Avner bent down to open the shoe with his teeth. Vayakeu sham el hachomesh, and it was at that point that Yoav killed Avner at that same rib. Omer b'yechna b'defen chamishis, that we're talking about in that fifth rib, mokum shamar v'chavit tluim bo, where the gallbladder and the liver are there. Okay, so Be'etzim Yoav killed Avner in the same way that Avner killed his brother Asoil. Ve'eshav Hashem ez domo al rosh asher paga b'shnei anoshim tzadikim v'tovim mimenu, and Hashem returned on him his blood on his head, that Yoav killed two righteous people, anoshim tzadikim v'tovim mimenu, that were more righteous and good than him. Tovim shoyu dorshim achin v'rakin. Right, they're good in that they darshan achin v'rakin, as we expect earlier with Asoil. V'hu lo darash, and he didn't darshan. Right, Yoav didn't darshan. Them tzadikim, they were tzadikim shehein b'peh v'lo yosu, because both Avner and Asoil had specific direct missions from the king, and they did not do it. Right, Solomon told Avner to kill Nev Yer Koyanim, and he didn't do it. Asoil had the mission to get the people of Judah, but he didn't do it because they were studying Torah. V'hu be'igeres also, whereas Yoav killed Be'etzem Uriah Achiti, and that was via a letter from King David, even though it wasn't a direct command. And when Yoav killed Amasa was unsuspecting. Rav Shaloch Hashado, says Rav, that Amasa did not suspect that Yoav was going to kill him. It says that Yoav was buried in his house in the desert. Or to Beis Midbar, was his house a desert? Reviewed on Rab Kamidbar, it was like a desert. Midbar Mufkur Lakol, just like a desert is ownerless to all the people. Beis Shel Yoav Mufkur Lakol, so also the house of Yoav was hefker, it was open to all the people, all the aniyim, whoever needs. Taracha Kamidbar, like a desert. Midbar Minuka Migazel Arayis, just like a desert. There's nothing there. There's no theft. There's no immoral activities. Beis Shel Yoav Minuka Migazel Arayis, also Yoav's house was a good house. It was clean of theft and arayis. V'yavichayes sharair. Amavira afilu monine v'tzachanto toim parislu. and Yoav satiated the city. Says Rav Yehuda that there was even types of small fish and things, and they were very delicious. They were there for the people, I guess, for the aniyim. Hajan Alach Nigmar Adin. We'll come back to you, Perik Nigmar Adin. Okay, so now we get up to the 7th parak of Masechta Sanhedrin. Arba Misas Bezdin Nimtzu. Arba Misas Nimtzu the Bezdin. There are 4 types of capital punishment. Wow, I'm starting to get tired. My brain is like turning off. My throat is getting dry. All right, what time is it? 7:15. Bezdin has 4 types of capital punishment. Skila, stoning, sreifa, burning, hereg, slicing heads off, v'chenek, and strangulation. Reb Shimon says it's sreifa skila. Sreifa is the most stringent, and then stoning, chenek v'hereg, and then strangulation, and then slicing heads off with swords. Zo mitzvahs, haniskalin. Up until now, we've been talking about skila. Okay. Omar Rav says Rav Amar Chayra Omar Rab Huna. Or so it says of Rav in the name of Chayra in the name of Huna. Kol makom sheshanu chacham derech minyan in muktam mucher chutz mishiva samonin azoy. So it says Rav Chayra that whenever the Mishnah lists a bunch of things, they are not in order. The assumption is that they are not in order. The only exception being Mishiva Samanim, that if you have Dam Nida, or if you have Dam, or if you have really a red stain, and you're trying to figure out, is it Dam Nida, in which case it's Metame, right? It would be Metame, or is it just red paint? How do you know? So there are these 7, substances that you would place on the stain, and if they were placed in the order listed in the Mishnah, and the Dam goes away, then that means that it's Dam Nida. But if it stays, then it's red dye. The Tanaz V'lunine Mishnah Shiva Samonin Mavirin Ala Kesen. There are 7 what did I say a minute ago? I don't know, products? I don't know. 7 things that you put on the stain. Rok tefel, spit from the morning when you haven't yet eaten. Ume grisen, and like wheat that you chewed on, I think. Miraglaim, urine. I think like old rancid urine. And then Vineser, Uvorus, Kamuya, Ve'ashlech. If you put all these substances on it in that particular order, and the stain goes away, then it means it's Dam Nida. If it's still there, then it's dye. Then it's paint. Vikatani Seifa, we say in the Seifa, Aviron Shalok Sidron. If you apply these substances out of order, or Shaviron Shiva Asan Kechor, if you put out all 7 at once, Lo Asavlo Klum, that's irrelevant. It doesn't work. You have to do it in that order. It says of Schora, that's the only example where when you have a list in a Mishnah, it has to be in that order. You can't go out of order. Rav Papasov Mishmei Rav Omar, whereas Rav Papasov says in the name of Rav, Af Arba Misas, also the Arba Misas, right? Our Mishnah says Skila Seif Erik V'chenek. That's in level of severity. It's not random. Because from the fact that Reb Shimon then argues and proposes a different order, that must mean that what the Tanna Kama is saying is in its own proper order. It's Tanna Kama Reb Shimon, but as they're written in the Mishnah is the proper order of stringency. Ve'idach, and according to Avschora, who excluded our Mishnah, it says the only example where it is a particular order is by Nida. So Vidach beplugta lo kamaritz, because Avschora, he's not talking about where there's a machlokes. Here, over here by Mrs. Bezin, there's a machlokes. There's difference of opinion between Tanna Kama and Reb Shimon. Avschora was talking about where everyone agrees. Okay. But Papa Amar says, Papa Afseder Yoma. Also the order of Yoma on Yom Kippur. The Mishnah lists the order. What is it? The Tanaz V'lon Mishnah Kol Ma'is Yom Kippurim Ha'amurim Ala Seder. That all of the things, all of the steps that need to be done on Yom Kippur. Im hektim Ma'is L'chaver Lo Asav Lo Klum. If you go out of order the Kohen Gadol goes out of order, then everything is ruined. So we see that that's another example where things have to be in order. So v'idach au chumra ba'alma. Now Rav Schora, who excluded this example of Yom Kippur, is because that's just a chumra. What does it mean it's a chumra? It means that there isn't anything inherent in the things that are being listed that make one more severe than the other. For example, skila, sreifa, hereg, v'chenek. Skifa is more severe than sreifa, which is more severe than hereg, which is more severe than chenek. The avodas of Yom Kippur, it's not like they are like in hierarchical order. They're in a particular order, but it has nothing to do with the things themselves that determines the order. It just happens to be that there's different avodas, and those avodas have to be done in the order that they're done, but there isn't anything inherently setting up the hierarchy. Where am I? Fine, was it? Okay. Rafuna Beit of Yeshua Amar, I've said that Tom. Rafuna Beit of Yeshua says that also the order of the Korban Tamid has to be in that order. The Katani Allah, it says Zeu Seder Tamid. This is the order of the Tamid. Let me just make sure I don't think I missed anything. Where am I? I've said the Talmud, the Katani Alu, Zeu, Seder Talmud, Ve'idach, and those who exclude Seder Talmud will say, Ahu, the mitzvah ba'alma. That specifically just, ideally, it's for a mitzvah that the Korban Talmud should be done in that order, but if you go out of order, it's you still Yotze. And when Rav Schora says that the only example where things are listed in a particular order is by Nida, to the exclusion of Chalitza. It's not that we learn in the Mishnah, there's a particular order listed in the Mishnah, but it's not Ma'akev. Mitzvah's Chalitza, when it comes to Chalitza, Bahu v'yivimto lifnei Bezdin, so the brother of the deceased, as well as the widow of the deceased, come to Bezdin, Hayunoisnin lo eitza ugenes lo, and the Bezdin would offer him advice. For example, if he's old and the Yavama is young, or vice versa, they would say maybe marry somebody else. Shneim as opposed to this v'karu lo and do chalitza. V'karu lo ziknei iro v'dibru elav. That the elders of a city call him over and they speak to him. V'yomeres, and she says, when they go ahead with chalitza, she says, me'ein yivami v'gomer, that my brother-in-law doesn't want to continue the house of his brother, his deceased brother. V'omer, and the brother says, Lo chafasi lekachto, I don't desire to take her. Uv'lashon HaKodesh hayom, and this was happening in Lashon HaKodesh. V'niksha yivimto elav leni azkenim, and then the Yavama comes in front of all of the zakenim v'chotz anailo, and she removes his shoe. V'yarka b'fonim, she spits before him. Rakanir l'dayonin, spittle that is able to be seen, big enough that it can be seen. Yeah, my brain's turning off, so I don't really remember what we're talking about. Okay, that there's a particular order when it comes to chalitza. And then she, after the shoe is removed and the spitting, so then she says, this is what happens to a person who does not marry his sister-in-law. And then his name is called in Israel base Chalutzanal, the person who did chalitza. Alright. From Rav Yehuda, and says Rav Yehuda, mitzvah's chalitza, that when it comes to the chalitza, kore'ah. So first she says, me'en yivami, v'koreh, and then he says, lo chafasi lekachta choletzes, she removes the shoe, v'okekes, and then she spits, v'kores, and then she reads that pasuk of kochi es eleish. We ask, what's the chiddush of Rav Yehuda? He's basically just regurgitating the Mishnah. So Kamash Malon is teaching mitzvah, hachi v'apek leislon ba. What Rav Yehuda is teaching, what Rav Yehuda is teaching, is that even if you go out of order, it is still fine. Tanami Achi, we also in a price like this. Ben shektim chalitza l'rekika, whether you first remove the shoe and then spat, or rekika l'chalitza, or first spat and then remove the shoe. Mashasa also, whatever he's done is done. Okay, so we see that the order is not ma'akev by chalitza. Lafukim adatan to exclude. Okay, so the order of chalitza is not ma'akev. Vafukim adatan, and similarly also to exclude that which is written in the Mishnah. Kohen gadol, mishamas b'shmona kelim, that a kohen gadol has 8 begadim, v'hedjit be'arba, and a kohen hedjit has 4 begadim. B'chsoines b'nchasai b'mitznefes v'abneit. All kohanim have the ksonis, the long cloak thingy, b'michnasayim, the pants, b'mitznefes, the apron, mitznefes is the hat, v'abneit, and the belt. Most of Kohen Gadol adds choshen, v'ephod, right, the choshen and the apron, u'me'il, and the kind of long coat, v'tzitz, and the tzitz. V'tanya, we learn in a brisa, how do we know that when getting dressed, the pants are first? That pants of linen shall be on his flesh. So we see that the Minchasayim goes first. It goes when he's on his bare flesh. Vitana, we learn in a brisa, my time actime l'chsonis. So if the Minchasayim come first, then how come the Tana says chsonis first? Mishum the actime kra, because the pasuk mentioned chsonis first. V'kra my time actime. And how come the pasuk says that mentioned the cloak first, if really it should be the pants? Because mishum the actme, where am I? Mishum the mechase kule gufa adifale, because it's preferable to talk about the me'il, the ksonis, which covers the whole body. That is preferable rather than just the mechanasayim, which does not pisa.